Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Fairy God Boss Live webinar. We're so excited to have you all join us. We're going to give a few seconds for folks to connect. While we're waiting, we would love to hear where everyone's tuning in from today. You'll see on the right side of your screen that there's a chat box. So if you feel comfortable doing so, please send a message in the chat saying, hey, and letting us know where you're coming from. Awesome. Okay, we have some representation from, it looks like, many corners of the United States, which is wonderful. Maryland, Texas, New Jersey, Connecticut. Welcome, welcome. All right. Again, as a reminder, as you're joining California, feel free to drop where you're tuning in from, and also throughout the conversation as questions, comments, or reflections arise, feel free to drop them in the chat as well. Wonderful. Georgia, Texas, the Bronx, the Boogie Down Bronx to New York. Wonderful. I myself am just located outside of New York City. Okay, so we seem to have a quorum, so we can go ahead and get started. I'd first like to introduce myself. I'm Valentina Lanisi, a senior account manager at the Muse and Fairy God Boss. And before we get started, I do have a few quick housekeeping announcements. So this session will be recorded and shared via email with all registrants. So if you have to drop for whatever reason, or you'd like to send it along to someone after the event wraps, you can absolutely do so. Again, during the discussion, we would love to hear from you. So we hope you use the stage chat on the right side of your screen to send messages, comments, questions to the panelists and also to one another. For those of you who do not know, Fairy God Boss is the largest online career community for women. Millions of women visit Fairy God Boss for career connections, jobs, community advice, hard to find intel about how companies treat women, and virtual events just like this. Now I'm excited to kick off today's event, a behind the scenes look, a day in the life of trailblazing leaders, sponsored by Lowe's. We are thrilled and joined by 4 leaders today at Lowe's, so please join me in welcoming them. We have Margot Flynn Chavez, a senior manager of software engineering at Lowe's, Rachel Leek, a product manager at Lowe's, Rashmi Tadikonda, lead software engineer at Lowe's, and last but certainly not least, Mo Mowry, Senior Master Trainer at Lowe's University. Mo will be moderating today's webinar discussion. And now I'm excited to hand it off to today's moderator, Mo Mowry, who will lead us in a conversation about a behind-the-scenes look, a day in the life of trailblazing leaders.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Val. Good morning, everybody. I am so excited to be here. What an awesome opportunity. I'm a senior master trainer here at Lowe's. Again, my name is Mo Mowry, and I've been working here at Lowe's for just under 10 years. And wow, I wish I would have had an experience or an opportunity like this today, where we're going to get a chance to not only learn from these amazing women, but also ask questions. So thank you, Val, for the time and the opportunity. So let's dive right in. I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to each one of you so that you can take a minute to introduce yourselves. And we'd love to hear what's going on in your personal life, your professional life, and what you do in your role today here at Lowe's. And Margot, we're going to go ahead and start with you.
Sorry, I had to find my mute button there. Hi, everybody. I'm Margot Flynn Chavez. I'm a senior manager of software engineering here at Lowe's. I work on the enterprise configurator platform. So we build tools, services, and experiences that support complex sales, so complex products, configurable products, across all Lowe's channels, so online in stores. I've been with Lowe's for about 5 years now. And then in my free time, I do some photography. I'm teaching myself to learn the piano. So some, creative things outside of software engineering kind of on the side.
I love that, Margot. That's so awesome. I think it's important to keep yourself active in doing something, right? It helps that brain kind of stay active. For me, it's roller skating. So I love it. Thank you, Margot.
There you go.
Rachel, let's move on to you. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the team today.
All right. Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Leek, and I am a product manager here at Lowe's. I've been with Lowe's for about 2 years. I work in supply chain technology right now, specifically transportation management. So making sure all of our trucks domestically make it to their distribution center destination or product to the stores. Um, Prior to this role, I was actually a nurse for 6 years, so I have a really unique background to my current role. And then in my free time, I love to travel. I coach girls soccer, and I like to run marathons.
Oh, that's so awesome. I played soccer for 18 years. I love hearing about just what you never know anything about people until they like start to share things with you. So I love it, Rachel. Thank you for sharing with us. And Reshmi, go ahead and round us out here.
Sure, everybody, thanks so much for joining me. I am Reshmi Tatikonda, I lead software engineer at Lowe's, with over 8 years of experience in software development and a master's degree in computer information systems. And I work on building tools that improve both the customer's experience and how we operate internally. Over the years, I have had chance to work on variety of projects like the search, product list, floor visualizer, and even AI-powered tools like chatbot and outdoor assistant solutions. My role is a mix of hands-on development, team collaboration, and driving innovation. And it's been an exciting journey so far. And yeah, in free time, I like to play ping pong and travel. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Ping pong is kind of outstanding. I can't tell y'all. I have no coordination when it comes to ping pong. So I'm very, very impressed. Also, traveling is such an important part of understanding all of these wonderful things that all three of you do and getting an opportunity to see the world and see how it kind of interacts with what we do here at Lowe's. So thank you all so much. I'm really excited to continue our discussion here today and see what other questions we have as we go. And for those of you that are just tuning in, I would like to remind you, everyone, that we will be answering questions today. They'll come directly from all of you. So we'll share some questions. We'll also get a chance to submit some questions as well into the chat, and so that you can see your own questions kind of come to life here as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. But as we go, feel free to drop your questions into the chat box so that we can get to know our wonderful guests here today. So I'll go ahead and start this one for Rachel. Why do you choose Lowe's, and how did you get to where you are today in your career?
Yeah, so I'll take that question a little bit in reverse. So how I got to where I am today. As I mentioned, I do have a previous career as a nurse. I have a bachelor's degree in nursing. I was a travel nurse, an ICU nurse, so I kind of did a lot in that space. But during COVID, I decided to go back to school and get my MBA. And it was between my first and second year in that program where I was looking for graduate internships. And I came across some with Lowe's that I applied for. And it was actually the recruiter who kind of steered me in the product direction based on my experience. So I'll say by a little bit of luck and accident, I got that internship and it progressed into a full-time job after. So that's how I landed here. But one of the reasons I really liked Lowe's and chose to work here was for the company culture, for the fact that it's headquartered here in Charlotte. And, you know, coming out of COVID, I wanted the opportunity to meet with my coworkers and be in a collaborative space that wasn't just strictly behind a computer. And then Lowe's also does a lot of great things for the community as well. So, you know, choosing a role in a company that I was able to make both professional and social impact was really important as I was kind of transitioning and growing my career.
I love that. And I couldn't agree more. I think COVID really changed a lot of people's lives. And then getting a chance to come to a company like this that not only cares about you as an associate, but our communities that we go and enter when we leave our job every single day, or we shut our laptops at the end of the day. So Rachel, love the answer. Thank you for sharing. Reshmi, go ahead and let's hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, what drew me to Lowe's is, I mean, how much they value technology as a driver for meaningful change. I have always enjoyed creating solutions that simplify life, and Lowe's gave me the opportunity to do that on a big scale. As for my journey, I started with focusing on front-end development, things like making interfaces clean and intuitive. Over time, I got a lead projects like the floor visualizer, which helps customers imagine their houses with different products, and the product list tools, which make shopping more seamless. It's been a combination of a learning, collaboration, and honestly, I mean, just staying curious. Yeah.
I love that. I think that that is such an awesome way to look at it too, because at the end of the day, we are also the customer as well. And so kind of identifying and seeing what that's like, and then bringing it, you have the power to bring it to life. And I think that is so neat. So thank you for sharing that. Next up, we got Margot.
Yeah, so I like to say that Lowe's actually chose me. So I've been really lucky in that sense. I actually came to Lowe's as part of an acquisition back in 2020 from a startup company. But one of the reasons that I've stayed with Lowe's is exactly what Rashmi said. I think we've gone through a lot of technology transformation over the last 5 years. And so that's been a really exciting space to work in. From the tech side, we're doing really big things. And we're having some of our best years at Lowe's from a technology perspective. So it's an exciting space to be in right now. But the other thing is I work in configurable selling, and that is alone kind of a space for transformation. There's a lot going on in that area. Custom products are something that a lot of companies don't do well. So I've been really excited to work in a space that I think that, we can be an industry leader in. And Lowe's is really good at prioritizing those sort of, best in class experiences. And then the last thing I'll say is I'm a loyal Lowe's customer. And so it's easy for me to want to work here because I joke that I get my paycheck from Lowe's and then I go back and spend it at Lowe's. I'm a homeowner, I'm a DIYer. So I enjoy what we do. I really believe in the mission of Lowe's. And I like to, sort of consume our own products and engage with it from the customer side as well.
Awesome, Margot. I'm right there with you. I definitely go and spend my paycheck at Lowe's very often. So I completely agree and understand. And thank you all three for those wonderful answers. I think it gives insight to who we are as a company, but also how Lowe's allows you to be yourself and be authentically you, while also coming in and being empowered as a woman in tech and a woman in a space that is mainly male dominated, I would say, or at least has been in the past. And so it's nice and refreshing to hear your answers. I appreciate it. We're going to move on to question number 2, but please, if anybody who is joining us has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. But number 2 is, what do you find most rewarding and challenging about your work? Margot, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Yeah, so I really enjoy the complexity of the work. I think that's one of the things that keeps it interesting. No 2 days at Lowe's are the same. I get to work with a lot of different teams. That's one of the fun things about working on an enterprise platform team, is just the number of people that I get to work with every day. And I like the different cross skill sets of the teams that I work with as well, product, UX, engineering, and then even some of our business stakeholders. That's a huge aspect for me as well.
Yeah, keeping you on your toes, right? Making
That's
it
right.
every day. Rashmi, what are your thoughts around this one?
Yeah, I mean, same thing what Margot just mentioned. For me, what's really rewarding is seeing how the tools we build impact people. I mean, for example, the floor visualizer lets customers upload picture of their rooms and see how different floorings or paint would look. It's amazing to know that it's helping people then make decisions with confidence. And of the challenging part, balancing innovation with usability. I mean, like when we worked on the AI outdoor assistant tool, we had to make sure it wasn't just cool, but also really easy for users to interact with. I think challenges like these push you to think deeper, and that's what makes the work so fulfilling.
I love that. And I come from the stores. So for about 7 years, I worked in our Lowe's stores. And I agree with you. I think one of my favorite parts was when customers would bring like pictures of how it went when they did their project or when we installed something for them. But I also agree with that challenge piece, right? It's putting yourself in their shoes and what that would be like when you're going through our online experience, our in-store experiences. What is it like to shop with us, and how can we continue to one-up ourselves every single day? So I love it. Great thoughts there. Now, Margot, I've got a question for you. How have you found your own passion, purpose, and your voice here at Lowe's?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it's really thinking outside of your lane. And I think particularly as women, I've heard that a lot in my career. Some of you may have heard that as well, sort of that stay in your lane mentality. And it's something that I've really actively tried to work against. So I come from both a tech background and a design background. I studied both in school. And so even though I've been in an engineering role for my time at Lowe's, I've always been outside of that lane and tried to engage with my UX partners and my product partners. And that helps drive that creativity and that passion. It gets rid of sort of the monotony of every day. It's not about just the tasks, but really making a difference at the company and for our customers. And so I think that's a really important thing that I've tried to remember during my career is that there's always opportunity to make a difference in whatever space. It doesn't have to be in your defined role or your defined lane, for lack of better words. You can find an opportunity to make change anywhere, and that keeps it really interesting and keeps me passionate.
I absolutely love that response, because I think the only way that I have been successful in my past 10 years is going against the grain, right? And showing that courage, one of our core behaviors here at Lowe's. But I also think it kind of leans into our values as well when we are collaborating. I mean, our customers aren't just the people that, shop on our website or pull into the parking lot. Our customers are each other, right? And so it's taking that time to lean across the aisle or call somebody on the other side of the country that works for Lowe's, and connecting with one another and being inclusive of all those diverse experiences and perspectives. So love it, Margot. Does anybody else want to answer that one before we move on? All right, let's keep going. Now, if anybody has a question, like I said, please drop it in the chat box. We have more than enough time to take your questions as well. So we'd be very honored if you dropped one in. And if I don't see one, hopefully one of our backstage friends will help me out if one drops in and I miss it. But we're going to move on here. And Rachel, we're going to start with you this time. What advice do you have for someone who is new to this industry, or maybe that you might be looking to make in your career, if they're making a career pivot, maybe? Because it sounds like you definitely know, you're used to that. You've got experience there.
Yeah. My biggest, takeaway there is to really leverage your unique background experience. I think when I first kind of was looking to make the transition, I felt like I needed to apologize a lot or justify my lack of knowledge in this certain area for, the role I was seeking after. But I've really found that using it as an asset and being really positive about your transferable skills and being open to not knowing everything has made people trust me more and be more open to engaging with me. It's one of the great things about Lowe's is so many of our people that I work with don't have traditional backgrounds, maybe not quite as far off as mine, but still, I think we all had something to bring to the table. And it's been really positive in making that transition.
Yeah, I love that response, because there's something that I've learned over the last 10 years of being here, is that we all have very diverse backgrounds, and it's kind of our superpower as a company that we are respectful and we are really inclusive to all those different backgrounds and experiences. So love that. Rashmi, what's your thoughts around this one?
I mean, for the development, maybe they can start with the basics, maybe getting comfortable with tools like JavaScript, CSS, HTML, and then dive into the frameworks like React. Once you have that foundation, explore different areas. Maybe it's search tools like the search and product list applications, or something more visual like the floor visualizer. Find what excites you, and don't worry about knowing everything right away. Focus on the transferable skills like problem solving and communication. And most importantly, don't be afraid to ask questions or take on projects that stretch your abilities.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think a big part of that is also networking with people who might be in the field that you're looking to go into. And I think both of those were really great advice. So I hope whoever's out there listening, definitely make sure you're taking notes here, because this is some really valuable advice that you're receiving here today. We're going to pause really quick, and we'll take a question from the chat here from Jasmine. It says, how do you feel being with such a large organization has helped you transition or grow into leadership roles? And I'll take whoever wants to answer that.
I can respond to that one. Like I mentioned previously, I came from a startup side. So I actually came from a team of about 8 engineers. And that was the full engineering team of our entire company at that time. So transitioning to Lowe's was a little bit of a culture shock. It's a huge corporation. Just the technology side of our corporation is really large. And so one of the things that I think Lowe's has helped give me opportunities for is building my communication and presentation skills. I think that's a huge part of being a leader. I've really learned that at Lowe's, that you can do amazing work, and that's really important. But sometimes being able to speak to your work and the accomplishments of yourself and your team is really impactful when you're trying to grow. And so developing those skills and, as Rashmi said, take on those opportunities. It might feel challenging or scary to, go in front of a large in a group or a large presenter. I had to present to Marvin, the CEO of Lowe's last year. That was really intimidating for me. But those are really great opportunities, and they drive visibility and also help you kind of upskill in those areas so that you can be ready to take on those promotions and give yourself, some personal growth and some career growth.
I love that. That's really great advice. And Jasmine, thank you for the question. Did anybody else want to share a little bit around that one? All right, awesome. Now, I really agree with Margot. I think a lot of what we have here at Lowe's, like Toastmasters Club, and just taking the time to connect with one another. I mean, clearly I'm good at it now, but I didn't show up like this, right? This is my job, is to be a public speaker and be able to speak to my accomplishments. But it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of time making mistakes and not being upset with yourself when you make mistakes, but showing yourself the patience and grace to make those mistakes so that you can go in front of the CEO and give a speech or advice or have a conversation about the work you're doing. And so, yeah, I love that. Great stuff. All right, moving right along. What type of career development opportunities can tech job seekers expect here at Lowe's? Rachel, I'm gonna pass this one to you.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of great opportunities for career development. One of the programs that I'm a huge advocate for is our elite program at Lowe's. When I was transitioning in, it was something I started when. So it's really a program for those looking to either make career transitions, coming from different roles, or new graduates altogether, as well as throughout your journey. My engineering team just went through it a few months ago to upscale their front end skills when they're all heavily back end developers. So that's one of my favorite things about career development opportunities at Lowe's.
Love that. And we have a lot here, right? It's not just one thing. The thing about Lowe's that's so wonderful, that at least in my perspective, is that there are so many opportunities. If you are tired of the role you have, or the career path you're on, Lowe's allows you to shift and change. And there's a lot of opportunity to grow and network through different departments and through different styles of work. And I think that that's something really special about our company that not a lot of other places have. So we'll keep moving here. Now, this one's going to be for Margot, and then we'll pass it to Reshmi. But looking back at your career, what would you say has been your most valuable career mistake, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, so for me, when I reflect back, early in my career, I had a diverse skill set, and I think that's really served me well from a career growth perspective. But it challenged me because I had this tendency to think, well, I could be good at any of these things. I could be a product manager, I could be a UX designer, I could be a senior engineering manager. And so it was difficult to find that direction and to have a clear goal for myself. And it also made it hard for my leaders, because they would come to me and say, hey, you're doing really well, but we don't know what you want to do. What's the next step for you? And I had this sort of fuzziness around that for myself. And only once I really sort of committed to a goal was I able to really develop my career, because it let me understand what my gaps were. I could work towards something concrete. And so that's something that I really learned early on. I was really afraid of pigeonholing myself, but I think having concrete goals makes all the difference when you're trying to grow in your career. And you can't keep it too abstract. But I'll counter that by saying I still work in those spaces. I still am very close with our product team, still really close with our UX team. But I just decided for my specific skill set and my career path, what that journey was going to look like. And once I had that, that made things a lot easier for me.
Yeah, I really love that. And I'm not trying to sell Lowe's to everybody that's joining us today. However, a lot of my career experience has been with Lowe's, right? And so I really like that answer, Margot, because here you can go down one path really, really deeply. And that just allows you to have more experience and a better perspective of how it might work for a different department if you choose to move elsewhere. So I love it. All right, Reshmi, what's your thoughts around this one?
Yeah, I mean, I would say one of my earlier mistakes was focusing too much on the technical side without considering the user's perspective. I mean, for example, in the initial phases of the development, I realized some part of the interface weren't intuitive enough for users. But what helped me to overcome this was actually seeking users' feedback and collaborative more with the stakeholders. That shift taught me that a great product isn't just about functionality, it's about how well it serves to the users.
Love that. I think that's some really good advice that anybody can take in any role in any company is being open to receiving feedback and not just expecting people to give it to you, but going and seeking it out yourself. So love that. Great responses. So now, like Daniela said, go ahead and drop any questions that you have for our amazing panelists that we have here today. We are more than happy to take your questions. But for now, Fairy Godboss has a tradition of asking its panelists the following questions. So we're going to go through those really quick, but I want you to think about these in a perspective. And I know Reshmi is going to answer this one for us, but if Margot or Rachel, if something comes up and you want to as well, please feel free to. But what we have observed is that women do not feel comfortable enough bragging or taking ownership of all the amazing things that they have achieved. And I've been guilty of that. And I've seen a lot of women I've worked with over the years be guilty of that too. But I would love if you could share some of your accomplishments, some of your personal and professional accomplishments, things that you're proud of over the last several years. Go ahead and open it up for us, Reshmi. But if the other two would like to, please do.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can tell my professional thing as I'm talking more about the floor visualizer thing. It was an exciting challenge to create a tool that lets users visualize their room with different products like flooring, blinds, paint. We even incorporated lightning simulations to make it more realistic. I mean, what made it special was seeing customers use it to make confident decisions about their spaces, knowing that something you build is helping people in a meaningful way. That's a great feeling actually. And even I worked on the chatbot where it's AI powered tool. Yeah, I mean these applications when customer use, I mean it makes me happy. Yeah.
I love it. I love these different things and thought processes of, I think it's tough, right, to brag about ourselves or get excited about the things we do because we just think it's a part of our job or it's a part of what we're supposed to do. But no one is going to speak to our accomplishments and they're not going to speak for themselves. So we have to speak to those, right? And we have to celebrate ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with celebrating yourself. And technically, it's not bragging if it's fact. Bragging would be I am talking about something, I'm kind of embellishing on it. And so I definitely want to advise anybody who is here to take the time to celebrate your accomplishments in any way that you can, and recognize yourself, and share them with people for sure. Let me check out this chat box here. Let's see. Did I miss any questions? Let's see. I'm going to go to the chat box and see if there was anything. Okay. I think we got Jasmine's question. That is absolutely right. Okay, let's see. All right, so I would love, since we're gonna pivot here just a little bit, and I've got some more questions before we go to our lightning round and so on and so forth. But I'm gonna see. I love some thought processes here about our culture. So now that you've all been with Lowe's for a little bit of time, and you've been in this culture around tech, and it doesn't have to be specifically about Lowe's, but maybe more about being in tech. What is that culture like, and what are some obstacles you've maybe come across, and how did you overcome those obstacles? I'll take whoever would like to go first. It looks like Reshmi would like to go.
Yeah, maybe I can answer this. Yeah, honestly, I mean, Lowe's has a such collaborative and supportive culture. They really encourage innovation and give you the feedback to experiment. When I'm working on the chatbot, I had the chance to explore cutting edge AI integration, and then team support made it possible to turn those ideas into a fully functional tool. And the thing I love is the emphasis on learning, whether it's exploring a new technology or joining membership programs, there is always room to grow here in Lowe's.
Love that. I've got a couple of questions in the chat, but before I move on, Margot or Rachel, would you like to give any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've experienced, and this isn't specific to Lowe's, I think this is partially just being a woman in a male-dominated space, which you could have mentioned, Mo. I think imposter syndrome is really challenging to deal with. And Rachel, I know you come from kind of a different background. I think especially when you have a diverse background, people can sometimes look at your resume and you can feel a little bit of sense of judgment about where you came from versus where you are. And I have a lot of folks on my team that struggle with imposter syndrome too, feeling like you're not the smartest person in the room, you don't have all the answers. But I think, Rashmi, the similar kind of feedback to what you were saying is never being afraid to learn is a huge part of imposter syndrome. That you're never at the finish line. It's okay to not know everything because you still have opportunities for growth. And seeing that as an opportunity instead of as a shortcome, I think has helped me overcome imposter syndrome. That having gaps just makes us human. It doesn't make us less adequate. So I think that's something that I've really learned in my career is to embrace that imposter syndrome and just see that as something that I can work on. But also, ignore the haters. There's some of that as well. Don't let anything get to you too personally. Everyone has gaps. So if, people are focused on your gaps, just remember that they have gaps as well. And that's just part of being human. We can't be great at everything that we try. So we can only continue to improve.
Yeah, that imposter syndrome can be very real some days and maybe not so much other days, but I think you're exactly right. And I think that was really good advice, Margot. And I hope that helped somebody out there that was wondering about that and thinking about it, because I definitely get imposter syndrome. And so does many of people on my team. And we're all different generations. We come from all different backgrounds and generations. And so it still happens to just about everybody, unless you just think you're all of that, which, I think everybody has those moments where they are really confident. And there's moments when we don't feel so confident. So I absolutely agree. Rachel, did you want to share a little bit there? I saw your mute come off.
No, yeah, I was just going to kind of echo back both answers. So one of the things I do love about, our culture is the collaboration. I would say half my work is within my own teams and the other half is with all the other teams across supply chain. But with that does come a lot of knowledge gap in the other areas of supply chain that aren't specific to transportation and what kind of I'm focused on. So I've learned one of my biggest challenges is learning to be comfortable asking the dumb question in the room and being able to say like, hey, can we go back to this very simple thing that everyone seems to know that I don't know. So that way I can, level set with everyone.
Yeah, I think that's awesome advice, because the amount of times I have asked a question just showed that courage to maybe look silly or maybe look dumb in front of other people. But it is that opportunity that I'm asking a question, I'm gaining more knowledge. And there was like 3 more people sitting next to me that didn't have the courage to ask the same question. And so some of the times you're just kind of being that person that says, hey, if maybe I already know the answer, but let me get some clarity around it. And then you allow other people who might not have had the courage to do so also get the information that they needed. So I love that. We're going to take we've got some really good ones in the chat box. So I'm going to read Vanessa's here first. And it's kind of talking about going back to that bragging and talking about our accomplishments portion that we spoke about a little bit ago. She says, on the other side of the coin, I agree there's some hesitation about bragging, but how do you address or deal with this when there's other women who are not receptive of it? It can get pretty competitive out there. And unfortunately, it's not always a supportive environment. We'll love to hear y'all's thoughts around that one.
Yeah, I can respond to that one a little bit. I actually just had something on my team that was a little bit related to this, where there were a couple of people that were a bit competitive with each other and they both felt a little bit small because of that. And so one of the pieces of advice that I gave them, and this has been really impactful in my career, is if you're not finding that camaraderie and that support within your internal space, branch out. It's part of like the best part of being at a large organization is that there's so many people here. There's so many places to find that support that it doesn't have to be within your direct team. Sometimes the best mentors are people that are outside of the space. They can come in with kind of a third party perspective. They're not biased by the politics internal to your organization. So that would be my advice on that one is, seek those mentors, those peers, those supporters outside of your immediate space. Because then if there's someone immediately in your vicinity that's maybe not supportive, that's a little bit less impactful. It can feel a little bit less overwhelming when you've got a support system beyond that.
Awesome stuff. Very nice advice. Anybody else want to share anything around that? They're like, no, Margot dropped the mic on that one. All right, we're going to keep moving. Nice stuff. AZ asks, any recommendations for a recently digital design graduate to find their next job, or some resume tips?
Yeah, I would say certainly leverage your network that whether it's if you're a new graduate, it's your parents' friends or your friends' parents or whatever. And then also there's a lot of opportunities to network within your community. I've done a couple events in the Charlotte area specific to product management networking, where it's been really cool to meet people from other companies in similar roles as myself. And a lot of people I have met there have been looking for new jobs or looking to connect to hire or to move teams. So I think most major cities have resources similar to that now, and certainly something to look into.
Yeah, definitely get branching out, right? Branching out and connecting. Use the network you already have. I always think is a really great piece of advice. I think we get a little nervous, or we keep almost the imposter syndrome around, should we even be asking this person? Is this the right person to ask, right? And so I definitely think you just got to go. You just got to do it, and not be so worried about what others might think of you. I see you, Reshmi. I see you're coming off mute. Go ahead and let's hear what your thoughts are.
I mean, I see Lowe's is opening multiple intern positions. Maybe they can apply for those and see how it goes. Yeah.
It's always good for practice too, right? Love that. Even if you don't get the job, I think it's another opportunity to learn and grow. Margot.
Yeah, to echo both of those, I think to Raishi's point, we do have the Launchpad program. I think that's a really cool program at Lowe's. If you guys aren't familiar with that, that's a program where they bring you into Lowe's. They have you do some rotations on different teams. Can be a great opportunity for a designer to build their portfolio. So that's huge. And then to Rachel's point, I know when I came out of design school, I reached out to local design schools or design firms in my area. And some of those will offer portfolio reviews. So that can be really handy when you're coming from the design side of things, to just have someone to kind of take a look at things. And then the last thing that I'll say, I did work more on the design side early in my career. And I think the thing that I saw from portfolios that was most impactful is not just speaking to the design work, because you can do beautiful design work, but also the impact of that design work. I think we sometimes forget about that as designers, that, it's not just the visuals, but actually what difference that was making for the customer. So that would be my one piece of advice as you're looking at your portfolio and your resume, is to be able to talk about those impacts as well as just the design itself.
Awesome stuff. These are some really incredible questions and even more amazing answers. And I think that I'm a little jealous of our participants. These are the amazing things that I wish that when I was early on in my career would have gotten a chance to learn about and just hear from other women in the fields that I was interested in. So thank y'all for these. And thank you for that question, Izzy. I think we got some really good answers around that one. Vanessa, let's move on to yours. It says, is generative AI part of your work? And if so, how is it used and incorporated? I'm not sure if it's a no for everybody. Is it a no for everybody?
I would say I don't necessarily use it formally in my role or in the tech that I develop, but I use it a lot as like a personal aid to my own job. So whether it's, when I take sloppy meeting notes and I want to summarize them, or asking questions for things I don't understand versus trying to research on Google or another platform, AI has been really helpful in speeding along the answers to things.
Yeah, same for me too, Rachel. I do a lot of different things around having conversations similar to this one. And sometimes you get that brain fog and trying to have a conversation with somebody and you're not quite sure how to word something. I call it my own personal wordsmith. That's what I use it for. Did anybody else have any thoughts around the generative AI part? All right. We're going to move on to Betty's question. Betty says, what tips would you provide working in a male-dominated workforce? I'll go to Margot first, and then Rachel will come back to you.
It's the exact same timing, Rachel. We both came off mute. I was just going to mention, so when I came to Lowe's, I was part of a male-only team, and that was everybody, UX, product engineering, and that was true for about 3 years at my time at Lowe's until we hired some female staff. And so that can be a bit intimidating to be sort of the only woman in the room. But I think I really leaned into that. And so what I mean by that is I wasn't afraid to be, feminine. I wasn't afraid to have a different perspective and make that known. I think it can be really tempting sometimes to kind of form to the normalized group, particularly when you're in a group of men, and to sort of become a way that's more acceptable or more normal to what they would usually do. And I think it actually really benefited me to do things like lead with empathy, or not be afraid to, speak to the way that things made me feel. That sort of thing, I think, actually developed some of my leadership skills and gave me the opportunity to find other people in the organization that were similar to me. And that's where I found the opportunities to actually do what I wanted to do and work on teams and build culture on teams that I find really impactful. So that would be my advice. Don't let the culture, the male culture, sort of tune who you're going to be. Instead, allow yourself to be kind of the outlier and let that kind of tune the rest of the culture around you.
Incredible answer. Love it. Rachel, passing it over to you.
Yeah, I was going to say, similarly, it's certainly an opportunity to be bold. When you're the only woman, you're automatically going to be standing out more. And most men in business don't have, a hard time speaking their minds and being bold. So I would say go right back at it with them. I'm really lucky, though, right now in my role, I work with a lot of women. I think product management at Lowe's is very heavily dominated by women. And so it certainly makes that dichotomy a little bit different for me, but certainly most of my engineering partners are male, and so learning to speak up for myself has been definitely a learning curve in my new role.
Yeah, I think that this is really good advice here. I think that it can be complicated, and as somebody who is in a lot of male-dominated spaces, it's showing that courage to, like both of them said, just be yourself, be authentically you, and a lot of the time that perspective will really be appreciated. It might not look like it. It might not even feel like it some days that it's appreciated, but further down the road, it'll continue to show up in spaces where it's supposed to. So continue to be yourself. I really loved those answers a lot. All right. So it looks like that was our last question. I would love to see if we have any others before we go into a lightning round here in just a few minutes. Let's see, I might have a couple more for you here. Yeah, I do. I've got some up my sleeve here just to see if we can get a couple more answers here. So this one is, overall, what's the most memorable piece of advice that you have ever received? I'll give you a moment there to think of it, unless it just kind of comes really quickly to you, but give you kind of a second there. Yeah, Rashmi, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the advice that really stuck with me is focus on impact, not just effort. It remind me that hard work is valuable, but it's even more important to challenge the energy towards meaningful outcomes. Whether it's for my team, the business, or the end users, this perspective has helped me stay focused on delivering solutions that truly make a difference.
That's awesome. That's a really good one. Rachel.
Yeah, so one of my favorite things that a professor told me in business school was, you don't become CEO by being the smartest or the hardest working, but by making monumental impact for your company over and over again. So kind of to, reflect on the impact statement mentioned previously, is gets you out of your monotonous work, and instead of focusing on just the heads down of what I have to do daily, what am I actually working towards? What is the impact I'm trying to make, either for my team or myself, or the work I'm demonstrating?
Awesome. I love that those answers were similar, but kind of both had their own way of coming to the table here. Awesome. Margot, anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest lessons I've learned, and this came from several people that gave me this advice, because I think I wasn't very good at taking it, to be honest, for a long time in my career. But that's know when to ask for help. I think it's really tempting in your career to say, I want to grow. I want to show that I'm, worthy, or that I deserve this next promotion. And so you can take on so much. And I think I made that mistake early in my career, that I didn't lean on my team, lean on my peers or my leaders to advocate for the best things, the best practices, advocate for our growth as a team. And so that's, in addition to advocating for your growth, and as far as really making an impact and focusing on that, it's also knowing where you need some help, where you can benefit from other people's expertise and other people's influence, and not being afraid to make that known and ask for their assistance.
That's awesome. Really wonderful answers here, because I think that this advice has helped us each in our own careers, right? And to kind of piggyback off of you, is that the advice that I've received wasn't like just direct advice. It was actually a question, and it helped me understand that impact piece, right? And the question was, I was only 23 years old when my leader asked me this, so I had no idea how to answer it. It took me a couple of years, but it was, what legacy do you want to leave behind? What impact, basically? What do you want them to remember Mo as? And not, oh, Mo did this. It's, Mo helped us learn this, and now we continue that on through her. And I think that that's a really big understanding that you have to have with yourself. And I think it kind of really echoes what has been mentioned here, to help you understand where you want to go, what your purpose kind of is in the roles, and kind of how you want to feel at the end of the day each day, what your impact really is on your career, on the people around you. Love it. All right, I've got another one here. Is there anything specific that we haven't actually gotten a chance to talk about or mention? I know maybe a little bit around culture here as well, when it comes to tech, or when it comes to just what's your favorite part of the culture here at Lowe's. But nothing is off limits. So is there anything that we haven't gotten a chance to mention today that you would like to share with our viewers? I see you all thinking about it, Rachel.
Yeah, I'll say one thing that's kind of always in the back of my mind when I'm in meetings or with groups of people more senior than me, in my role, is really getting over the fear of embarrassment. I think it holds people back a lot to either what they want to say, or volunteering to take on certain projects or opportunities because they're afraid they're going to do bad. And I think everybody has that innate feeling at sometimes, but really, if you focus on trying to get over that fear of embarrassment, it opens your opportunities up to so much more.
I could not agree more. I just stopped caring what anybody thought unless it was impacting them in a negative way. I just stopped caring. But it takes practice, right? Love that, Rachel. Great advice. Anybody else have anything that they want to share specifically that we haven't really gotten a chance to touch on today? I've got a few more questions for you after that.
Yeah, adding to the Rachel thing, I'd say the collaboration is just as important as the other skills. It's where the magic really happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because I think a lot of the time when I think of collaboration, we forget that there's other ideas and thought processes and perspectives, and you might have a similar result but a different way of getting there. And sometimes when we go with somebody else's kind of path that they've decided on, or a path that they've brought to the table, we get to our same result but maybe quicker or more efficiently. And so I definitely think collaboration is a huge key to success in a lot of the teams, especially here at Lowe's. All right. What people or resources, or maybe even tools, do you rely on to get to really that work-life balance? I think that's a big part of being successful, is not just being really incredible at your job, but it's also being really incredible to yourself too. So what tools and resources do you use to obtain that work-life balance?
One thing that I've learned is to turn off notifications. I didn't do a good job of that early on. And believe me, it won't matter if it's, 4 p.m. on a Tuesday or 7 a.m. on a Wednesday. It really doesn't make that big of a difference. So turn it off and just ignore it for the time that you're at home with your family or with your friends. It's really important to be able to shut off. And the other thing that I've learned is it's okay to miss deadlines. It's okay to let things, sort of what Rachel was saying. It's okay to be embarrassed. It's okay to fail forward. Don't let that cost you your happiness or your life or your relationships outside of work. Because it's really, it's not make or break. It's not life or death. We're not saving lives. We're doing important work, but it can wait till the next business day. So that's something I've learned for sure.
Could not agree more. Simple, but very much to the point. And I appreciate that one, Margot. Anything else that we want to share around that? Rashmi, go ahead.
Yeah, I also make time for hobbies that refresh me, like regular workouts at the gym, gardening, and even growing my own food whenever I can. And yeah, reading is another way I recharge. Yeah.
Yeah. Connecting those dots for yourself and being able to step away from your work is so important, and find things that you're passionate about or get you excited, and kind of allow you to recharge your batteries, right? So I love that. Especially the growing your own food is so cool. I love that. Rachel, did you want to add here at all?
No, I agree with both those things. I like to stay physically fit to help keep myself balanced and clear-minded for when I am working. And so one of the best things I've done for myself in the last year is get one of those walking pads. So it kind of helps, type away and work in the afternoons is kind of my vibe. And then certainly, coming from the nursing field where I understand real emergencies, it's really helped me have a better perspective on that work-life balance and turning off the notifications and realizing that people that react certain ways, it's not quite an emergency as I'm used to. So helping keep a level head in all those situations.
Yeah, that emergency is quite different, right? Than
Yeah.
you've done before.
Yes.
This is wonderful advice here, team, because I think at the end of the day, we're all just people trying to figure it out, no matter if we're the CEO of a company or we are just starting out in our career. We're all just people, and taking the time to show yourself that love, that grace, and patience every day is very key to being successful, because if you're just pushing yourself every day, you're going to have that burnout eventually. So great answers here. Lynn is directing this one to Margot, but it is also open to everybody. She says that you've moved from startup to a big company. How do you or other panelists feel about moving into another direction, from a big company to a small one or a startup? Can you describe the culture shock, or if there was any?
Yeah, that's a great question. There definitely is a culture shock, I will say, between a corporation as large as Lowe's and then a startup culture. I think there's pros and cons to both. You know, there are things that I loved about being at a startup, and there's things that I love about being at a large corporation. I think going from a large corporation probably to a smaller team, you have to go back into that mindset of wearing many hats. And I think that does make work-life balance a little bit tricky. And it can make, the delegation habits harder to master as well. And asking for help harder to master. I think it's one of the things that sort of I was forced into coming to a large corporation, is remembering that there's lots of people that can help. There's not just a few of us that need to do everything, that we can, ask for more resources and more time. So I do think there's definitely a pretty big culture shock between the two of them. But I honestly recommend to anyone that's only worked in one versus the other to seek opportunities to do whichever one you haven't. Because I think that you get a lot of personal and career growth from making some of those transitions and working in those different kind of ecosystems and teams. So I would definitely suggest, diversifying your resume and having that experience in both types of organization.
Awesome. That's a great answer. Rachel or Reshmi, if you would like to answer this one, it is up for grabs as well. But I will go ahead and move us into our lightning round if we have no other answers there. Okay, our lightning round really only has one question. So it's not like I'm going to throw a ton of questions at you and expect you to just hurry up and answer. This one actually is really near and dear to my heart, as I think that imposter syndrome comes up, or am I in the right path? Am I going down the right path? Am I in the right career field? So I think about it this way, and I know you probably know where I'm going with this, but think about the younger you, right? 8-year-old you, 15-year-old you, 18-year-old you. What advice would you go back and give to yourself in those younger years? And what would you say if she was sitting right next to you right now? What would you tell her? And Rachel, I'll start with you.
Gosh, the first thing I would say is the first career path, the first thing you try doesn't have to be your forever. And I think I'm pretty evident of that landing in my current role. But also to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you're not going to learn or grow, staying in that comfortable realm. Say yes to the things before you're ready to do them, and take the chances. For example, I went travel nursing only a year and a half after starting my nursing career, which typically you can't even get a job in that field or until you're 2 to 3 years in. So was I ready for that? I don't know, but it worked out for me. And so I would never have known that had I not taken the risk to try it.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice there to give to your younger self, and to the people who are here with us today, because, there is no, when are you ready? When are you ever really ready for anything? And it's kind of just taking that chance to find out, right? And so I love that answer. Reshmi, what's your thoughts around this one?
Actually, it's a great question. I tell myself to be more open to stepping out of my comfort zone. And doesn't stress too much. Mistakes are just opportunities to learn, right? So yeah.
I love one of my coworkers. He likes to tell me that fail is an acronym. It's not just a word, and it means the first attempt in learning. So if you fail, it's just an opportunity to learn. And so, Reshmi, I really love that a mistake again, like Margot said earlier, we're not saving lives here. So when you do make a mistake, it is just truly an opportunity to learn and grow. Awesome. Does anybody have anything? Margot, anybody have any last thoughts here that you want to share? I'll pass it around. How about this? I'm about to close everything up for all of us. I'd love to kind of just pass it to each of you if you have any closing thoughts or remarks. And Reshmi, I'd love to start with you.
I mean, this is great. I mean, I just want to know what suggestion you give to your younger self more.
Oh, what would I tell my younger self? I would say don't stress too much about where the big picture is. Do what's right in front of you. Stay present in where you are now, and appreciate what's around you. And do your best at what you're doing right now. Don't focus too much on what's next year or what's 20 years from now. Worry about the present, because you will be a lot happier if you do, for sure. Love it. Thank you for asking me. I'm going to pass it over to Margot, and Rachel, we'll end with you.
Yeah, I think similar. That's actually what I wrote down in my advice. I said, take your time and enjoy the present moment. So I totally agree with you there. And I think the other aspect of that is enjoying the successes. I think oftentimes when we're, especially in a technology organization, it's always the next thing, the next release, the next milestone. And we don't do a good job of celebrating for ourselves or for our teams and our peers the things that we have accomplished. So that's something that I'm trying to make space and time for every day on my team and for myself. It's not, like you said, always about the next thing that we're going to do. Sometimes you have to take stock of how far you've already come and the impact that you're already driving. So I would definitely encourage everyone to celebrate those things and spend some focus on that as well.
I love it. Thank you, Margot. Rachel, passing it to you.
Yeah, last thing I'll say is just take every opportunity to keep learning, whether it's within your own role or the roles around you or outside of work and, reading or taking classes in photography or cooking or something else you're interested in. I think you never know who you're going to meet and what opportunities it's going to lead to, both in your personal or professional career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I can put a nice little bow on this for everybody is don't expect these things to happen the next day, overnight, even in a week. It takes practice, and you have to be consistent and practice that discipline to get to where all of these lovely ladies have gotten to. And you're on the right path. You just got to be patient and graceful with yourself. So thank you, Margot, Rachel, and Reshmi for joining us today and sharing such fantastic advice. And thank you to all of you who've tuned in and who've become a part of this discussion and dropping in your questions. We really appreciate it. As a reminder, we will be sending out a recording of today's event along with resources to learn more opportunities here at Lowe's. And in the meantime, be sure to check out Lowe's profile and the jobs on Fairy God Boss. Also, we would love to hear your feedback to help us improve future events. So please head to the Typeform tab. It is in the chat box. We've dropped it in the chat for you. And take about a minute or two to complete that survey. But I just want to say thank you so much to everyone, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.